WDTFF.
Once again, here's Drinking and Talking Fantasy Football with your host, Jake Trowbridge and Dustin Lunt.
Good evening, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to DTFF, folks. Sorry if you missed us last week. We took the week off. Life happens from time to time.
It was my fault. Just blame me. Just blame me. Say it. It's my fault.
I wasn't going to throw you under the bus there, Jake. I'm too classy for that.
You are. I'm not. I would throw you under the bus. So I'm going to throw me under the bus. It was all my fault, people.
I couldn't even say it without laughing. Let's be honest.
Hey, we're back tonight. That's what's important.
That's right. And, lots of fun stuff going on NFL wise, believe it or not. We've got the combine starting here. So we get to see everybody running around in their underwear, doing amazing things, because that's what really matters on the football field, is how well you can run around in Under Armour, skin tight unitards, where you can see everything, leaves nothing to the imagination.
That's right. When they do it, they end up getting multi-million-dollar paychecks out of it. When I do it, people throw food at me. So I just think it's unfair. That's all.
It is unfair. Why should we have dual standards like that? How come I can't show up to my job in Under Armour and just be like, no, this is how I work? It actually makes me perform better. No
restrictions. I'm so aerodynamic now.
Exactly. No, not the way it goes, unfortunately. But yes, we got that. We've got a lot of pre-free agent news that's been popping up, some of which we're going to be discussing this evening. I'm burying the lead here. We're talking about some of the biggest questions from the offseason. These are handpicked by us. Obviously, we're not going to get through every single question of the offseason, because let's be honest, it's a never-ending stream of questions. We'll never get through all that. But these are the biggest, the most they're the ones we've got to get these answers to.
Oh wow, that's like it felt like you were trying to push these questions through your bowels in that moment and expel them. That's what it felt like to me. Just if you wanted my opinion about it.
Well, that is just, might be a little too much TMI here, but
all right.
Too much.
That's fine.
Too much TMI?
That's like ATM machine.
Is that too much information?
That's
it's
correct.
Just too much. Anyway, yes. I do not make that face, just so you're aware. Now everybody knows.
Oh, thank God. Thank God. What are you drinking tonight, Dustin? Let's get on with the shenanigans.
I'm drinking homebrew again. I'm working through this keg of stout here, since spring seems to be rapidly approaching here in Madison. It was almost 70 degrees today, end of February. So I got to polish this bad boy off before the weather gets too much warmer here, since this is a nice winter cold weather brew. What are you drinking, Jake?
I went to the store the other day. Interesting story alert. I went to the store the other day. I went to the liquor store that I normally don't go to. It's called Woodman's. Any Wisconsin natives know what a Woodman's is, but they have an overwhelming amount of booze. And I decided I was going to allow myself to be overwhelmed. So I went over there this weekend, and I found these things. They're called Devil's Backbone Smashes. And it's just vodka, it's one of the canned vodka drinks, it's like a cocktail in a can type of deal.
Is this based on the 90s skateboard movie?
Devil's Backbone?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called? Oh, you're talking about Brink.
Yeah.
Oh,
is it the hill called the Devil's Backbone? Isn't that what they call that big hill? I think
a great name for it. It probably is. I hope it's named after Brink. If it isn't, I'm going to pretend that it is. But it is basically, honestly, it's a glorified, not quite mimosa, not quite screwdriver, somewhere in between. It's vodka, it's orange, it's citrusy, and it's delightful. So I highly recommend, if anybody's looking for something in a can, go for Devil's Backbone.
Yes.
Not yet a sponsor.
I'm trying to find.
You really want to know what the Brink hill is?
I don't think it's Brink. It's
It's not Brink.
It's
I thought it was Brink.
no, it's not Brink. It's Airborne.
Oh, we're on completely different wavelengths here.
Yeah, it was Seth Green was in it. Jack Black was in
I don't
it.
think I know this one.
No?
I don't think I'm aware. No, I don't think so. I got some catching up to do, apparently.
Oh my God. No,
Well,
this is a great.
is it Devil's Backbone? Is it Devil's Backbone, Dustin? That's what we need to know.
I think it is.
You would never make
it's air the first YouTube. It says Airborne - Devil's Backbone scene commentary.
All right, there we go. Perfect. The rest of the episode is just going to be that scene commentary. So enjoy, everybody. Push play. See you later. Good night.
Oh my God. Yeah. Anyway, if you haven't seen that movie, great movie. Rollerblading. They go down this massive hill called Devil's Backbone. Anyway, back to you, Jake.
Great. Well, that's what I'm drinking. Number one is I'm drinking that Devil's Backbone, which is delightful. Highly recommend. But number two is I am paying off a beer bet from last season. I got a bunch I'm going to have to pay off, so I might as well get going on it. I'm choosing the earliest loss on my slate, which is DJ Moore versus Jamison Williams in points per game. I was stupid enough to say Jamison Williams, and so for that, I deserve to take the shot and say, Dustin, you are an amazing fantasy football prognosticator / genius. Cheers.
Yes. Thank you. Just as an aside, I did start rewatching Brooklyn Nine-Nine again from the beginning, and I just watched the Halloween heist episode last night. I love those.
They're delightful. I don't just recommend Devil's Backbone. I recommend Brooklyn Nine-Nine as well. This is like my Oprah's wish list episode. I'm just going to keep telling you all what I think you should buy with your money.
Nice.
Or spend your time doing.
All right. Okay. So we got the beer bet out of the way. Should we get our drug trade out of the way? I shouldn't say getting it out of the way. It sounds like it's a chore. No, we love this segment. Let's joyfully just glide into our drunk trade of the week.
Drunk, hammered drunk.
Drunk trade of the week.
All right, we are looped up and ready to glide in with this week's drunk trade. Dustin, before I put it up on the screen, where do you suppose this week's drunk trade comes from? If you had to take a guess.
Reddit.
Ah, damn, it's like you've been here before. This one from Reddit user Schmatty23.
Schmatty.
This is a 2-quarterback dynasty league. Very, very important for this. Also important, this is not a tight end premium league.
Oh.
So this is what we have from Schmatty23. Offered the 106 rookie pick, Zay Flowers, and Dalton Kincaid for the 101 rookie pick when I was hammered, but it got rejected. This is the part I want to focus on. They say, very glad that it got rejected. Dustin, if you just look at it, cursory glance, I know it's a lot to give up for the 101. Should you be very glad that this got shut down, or does this feel like the going rate in a 2-quarterback league?
I think in a 2 QB league, especially since it's not, super flex, tight end premium, I don't think that would be an overpay at all. I mean, if anything, it's probably a little light to try to move up to the 101, considering quarterbacks, you have to start 2 QBs. And if you want a young, sure thing with the 101, trying to get, Caleb Williams or Drake May, whoever ends up being the consensus 101 here. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think that's a bad offer. The tight end Kincaid, it's just like, okay, you have another tight end 6 through 20, depending on the year. I don't know if he's ever going to be that elite top 5, top 3 tight end. Zay Flowers, love him. Looked great this last year, but again, is he ever going to be a top 12 dynasty contributor? I don't know. The 106, you're going to end up with either a wide receiver or a running back, most likely.
Yeah.
So,
because 106, you've definitely got 3 quarterbacks off of the board at that point. I mean, this is all pre-rookie draft or NFL draft, I should say. But probably the 3 quarterbacks, your Caleb Williams,
Mhm.
your Drake May, your Jaden Daniel is probably going to be gone. Marv is going to be gone for
Mhm.
sure. And then probably
Neighbors.
the wide receiver too, right? So
Yeah.
Malik Neighbors seems to be that guy. So
So
yeah,
then
what do you really have at
you're
the
looking at
106 right
the
now?
wide receiver 3, running back 1, maybe?
Or Brock Bowers, even though this is
Yeah.
not a tight end premium. I don't
Yeah,
know. I mean,
true.
that's
Yeah.
not as inspiring as just having that locked and loaded
Yeah.
101. I agree with you on Zay Flowers. I really like Zay Flowers. I have Zay Flowers in a couple of dynasty leagues, and I'm okay with that. But it feels he's more of the, in terms of fantasy production, the Jarvis Landry type in his career. Like he can be a fringe wide receiver 1 for sure, but is he going to
If
excel
things fall the
beyond
right
that?
way. Yeah, it's just
Probably not. And Dalton Kincaid, I don't know. I think we're probably a little harsh evaluating him because he wasn't Sam Laporta last year. That's kind of the biggest knock against him. He just
well,
wasn't
there
Sam Laporta.
well, there's that, but they still have Dawson Knox on the team. You've got Stephon Diggs, who is going to get funneled, more targets than the tight end position. And then you got Josh Allen, especially if you're looking for touchdowns. You got Josh Allen that likes to run them in. They
Mhm.
utilized the running back much more this year. So
Sure.
I just, like he's fine. I don't hate him by any means. And I'll be honest, I thought he looked better than I thought he was going to this last year. It took a few weeks for him to kind of get involved, but once he did, he looked fine.
Once
But
Knox got
since
injured, basically.
yeah, but like I said, they still have Knox, and considering there's no tight end premium, it's just like, okay, he's another tight end. Like I said, unless you don't have one of the top 3, it's just like whatever. It's not really a difference maker. So, I mean, I don't think that that's an overpay at all. I mean, if
Yep.
I don't know if I would have accepted it for the 101, to be honest. I probably would have rejected that as well, but I don't think it's totally out of line either.
I think this is a great trade. Like, I think this is a great fair trade. So it's very interesting that Schmatty was so glad, but also obviously the other person wasn't interested in it either, which
Right.
honestly probably means that it is a very even trade.
Mhm.
They're both hemming and hawing about it. They both feel, I'm glad that trade didn't go through. That probably means it's just an even trade, honestly.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I think in terms of drunk trades, that's a pretty solid one.
It is.
Honestly, just way to go, allowing your drunk self to send a solid drunk trade and not being that asshole who's like, I'm going to offer you Gabe Davis for the 101, because there are some people out there like that. I won't name names. I won't point thumbs, but there are people like that exist out there. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, as far as trades go, that's not a bad, especially for an opening trade, just throwing it out there,
Yep.
especially drunk. Like, yeah, it's not a bad first volley. If you really
Yeah.
want to make it happen, at least you have a starting point, Like, so yeah.
Agreed. We
Yeah,
This might be the most unified we've been in a drunk trade in a long time.
I think
Feels
so.
like. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks,
Well, let's
Schmatty. And thanks, Reddit.
yes, as always, thank you, Reddit. Let's see if we can get ununified with some of these hot topics that we need to discuss for the offseason. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do it. And, I really liked your list here. I went in this afternoon to add, because I saw you're, making notes on the show sheet. I'm like, I'm gonna add to this. And I looked at it, I'm like, that is a solid list, Jake. So kudos to you. I'm giving you a
Thank you.
thumbs up. So yeah, let's just go right down the list, because I do like how you have this broken out here. So the first question you posed is, where does Justin Fields end up playing? Now, I don't know if you saw, there was a report today that the Bears are leaning towards trading the first overall pick. How much of that is smoke this time of year versus not? I mean, it's convenient that it came out the week of the combine. I don't put too much stock into that right now, because there's a lot that can happen between now and the draft. We still got 2 months,
Yeah.
but I think it's probably likely that Fields leaves. Do you feel the same way, Jake?
I think it would be in everybody's best interest that he does. I mean, I can't say for certain that will happen, but it just feels like 5 different combinations of coaching staffs in one city for a young quarterback is not the way to establish confidence. So it's like,
Hmm.
obviously it's going to be a different coaching staff regardless this year, no matter what happens with him, but like give him a fresh start in a new locale, please. And then, yeah, Bears would be wise, whether they trade him and then take Caleb Williams, or I even saw somebody posit that they trade Justin Fields and then trade down a pick or two to get, the second quarterback that might be there.
Right.
I don't care. Whatever. But I do want Justin Fields out of there. Yeah.
Yeah. So of all these predicted landing spots, Jake, which one of these is for fantasy value the most intriguing for you? So you got Atlanta, Pittsburgh, Vegas, and Denver listed here.
Yeah.
Definitely Atlanta.
I think Atlanta is the way to. Now that Arthur Smith is gone, and we'll talk about him in a little bit more detail later on, but now that Arthur Smith is gone, if you just are purely looking at a weapon standpoint for him on the offense, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, that's pretty great. Now, if he goes to Pittsburgh, he has to go with Arthur Smith as the offensive coordinator there. As an OC, maybe it'll be different. So
I think we can all agree that Pittsburgh would be the worst landing spot of all of these.
I actually think from a short-term perspective, it could be okay. It could be okay. Yes. Like for this year, for 2024, I think I'd rather have him in Pittsburgh than in Vegas. From a long-term perspective, I'd rather have him in Vegas because young coach who just got promoted, halfway through last year. They've kind of retained that staff. They do have Luke Getsy as their offensive coordinator in Vegas, which would be a maybe unfortunate reunion. I don't know. And then Denver, I just don't want him to go to Denver because Sean Payton sucks. I don't think any quarterback should be subjected to Sean Payton, and I think Sean Payton can only deal with a rookie at this stage in his career.
Yeah, but Denver's intriguing just because they've got wide receivers. They've invested. They have first round picks in that offense with the wide receivers. You've got a solid defense. Well, okay, solid, questionable. It picked up towards the end of the year, but you got a running game. You don't have to rely on Fields to do everything. So I think Denver would be intriguing. But yeah, I mean, we've really only seen Sean Payton work with Drew Brees and make it work so far. So it would be, I question whether he can work with a running quarterback in Fields or someone that does like to run like Fields, where Brees was obviously a pocket passer. Russell in his advanced age, is more of a pocket passer at this point of his career than a scrambler like he was early. So can Sean Payton actually work with a running quarterback? I don't know. We haven't seen it, so I do question that, but I think the weapons there are intriguing.
They're intriguing to an extent. Like Cortland Sutton, I like. Jerry Jeudy just disappeared off the face of the earth last year. Was that a Russell thing or was that a Jerry Jeudy thing? I don't know. Or was it a Sean Payton thing? Just right. I don't really think that we should be scheming up plays for you or put you in great situations. Marvin Mims is an interesting guy for Fields specifically. I think that would be the thing that would get me really excited about Marvin Mims again, is if Justin Fields does go to Denver, because I think he could have that connection with him. Not saying it would be like Darnell Mooney exactly from his earlier years when Mooney was kind of the number one, but there could be flashes of that at least. But personally, I would prefer the Falcons for both the short and the long term. That would be
obviously
ideal, but who knows?
Obviously, you get that young core. I mean, you have to pay Justin Fields his 5th-year extension here, but you'd have a nice young core of talent on that offense, which would be incredible. Hopefully, Atlanta maybe spends some draft capital this year on some offensive line help. Although, RIP, they're going to be cutting Jonnu Smith.
Well, there goes all of the blocking.
Yep.
I guess. I don't know. I honestly don't even know if Jonnu Smith was that good of a blocker for the Falcons last year. Truly.
Yeah. It just opens things up for Pitts a little bit more. What about, I don't think this would ever happen, but what about New England?
I've thought about it, and it would be so catastrophic, I think, for his long-term value. I really do. Because we talked about it a little bit on the coaching episode of the new coaches that got
Right.
hired. And like the Gerard Mayo promotion is so befuddling to me because it just indicates that they're probably going to be more of the same and like how they approach it as a team. And that's not good for a quarterback. Somebody who has that level of value, it's just going to be a sharp decline in dynasty. I think you want somebody like if Russell Wilson goes over to the Patriots, fine, because it's basically where his value already is, which is just kind of this unknown thing. But Justin Fields is not an unknown thing for fantasy, so that would hurt. Would you like that?
No, I would hate that. I think it'd be awful for him and the Patriots because they're just not built to have a running quarterback. Let's be honest. Like you said, it's just kind of more of the same.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I mean, Bailey Zappi. I'm blanking on the actual starter. Yeah, Mac Jones.
Attack.
Good Lord, that just tells you how great he is. Neither of them are speedsters. So,
well, sure.
What about Washington?
Do I want him to be paired with Dan Quinn? Probably not. And they've got interesting offensive pieces there. Interesting is the right word. I don't know that I would say great, but interesting.
No, I didn't say great. I said interesting.
Yeah. But that again, like I don't know that the Terry McLaurin is not enough of a draw for me because it's Terry McLaurin, and then who is beyond him? A lot of interesting pieces, but nothing
Jahan
that's
Dotson.
Established at all. Again,
I remember when he was a thing.
I want him to be a thing still, but I don't think that that's going to happen. Going there with a respectable-ish running game, sure. There are some good pieces both on the offensive and defensive side of the trenches, at least, to make it easier. It's better than New England. That's as much as I can say about Washington.
Yeah,
it's better
than New England. Enough. I think that's enough. All right. Fair. Final thoughts on Justin Fields, or have we covered that plenty here?
I will say from a dynasty perspective, if we're talking about do we go trade for him right now? How do we value him right now? It doesn't mean a lot because it's best ball, but I've done some way too early best ball drafts, and he's still at quarterback 9 as of right now in underdog ADP. It's way too high for me to be comfortable with for this coming year, which means for dynasty, I'm not comfortable with it because that value could change in a heartbeat. So I can hold Justin Fields, but I'm not trading for Justin Fields right now.
Yeah, I would only trade for him if it was at a pretty good discount. And I don't know if any fantasy manager is going to give you that discount right now, but maybe they've just had enough. And it's just like, look, he flashed. He didn't do great last year. He sucked his rookie year. Like, I just want to be out, just give me what I can. Let me recoup whatever value I can. I'm just not a believer. At that point, I might take a stab at it, especially if he's like my second or third quarterback. At that point, it's like, oh, sure. Give me, let me take a chance on him. And, if he pans out, great. If not, well, I got him at a discount and didn't lose too much anyway. But yeah, I'm not actively going out and trying to trade for him at this point. Maybe once the draft happens and we see landing spot, but everyone at that point will be doing the same thing. So if you have conviction on him, now would be the time to actually go pull the trigger because his value is probably not going to get a whole lot lower at this point.
Sure.
All right.
I agree with you.
Okay. Moving on. We're going to stay in the NFC North here. Do the Vikings rebuild or do they run it back? So they've got some big questions here, mainly at the quarterback position. Do they sign Kirk coming off of that devastating Achilles injury? He was playing at an incredible level. Like he was having an MVP type season last year, in my opinion, before he got injured. Like he was looking fucking great. So do they
resign for sure? Yeah, for
MVP. So do they resign him? Does he want to resign there? I would think so. Especially at this point of his career, coming off injury. I don't know how hot the market's going to be on him. But then tied in with that is Justin Jefferson. He's up for a contract extension. but he wants Kirk. He likes Kirk. He wants Kirk there. He's basically told the team, I want to wait and see what you guys do at quarterback before making a decision. So he could be playing out his rookie contract here. I think they would probably franchise tag him for the 1 year. So he could be on a very limited leash here with the Vikings. The rest of the team, their defense started playing better down the stretch last year, but they still, I feel like, have a lot of holes on the defense. The offense, you got Hawkinson coming back from injury as well. Yeah. Alexander Madison didn't really whelm us at all last year. Do they spend some draft capital on running back? Probably. But lots of questions on the offensive side. So what are your feelings here?
I'm glad you brought up the running back situation, because due to what they have as their priorities, which is in order, in my opinion, get Kirk back on a short-term deal. It does seem like he's asking for a lot of money now, it sounds like. But I think the accurate comparison is like, yeah, he's asking for a lot of money because that's what you do. Like a car dealership is going to have a car listed at MSRP. That doesn't mean they expect you to actually pay MSRP. They're building that in for a negotiation, which is what I think that Kirk Cousins is doing.
Yeah. Well, and he's bet on himself, dollar, right? He's bet on himself every time he's hit free agency. He's the first, I think the only quarterback or player to have a fully guaranteed contract. I take that back. Deshaun Watson apparently does too now, but at the time, he was the first one to be like, no, this is a fully guaranteed 3-year contract. Just, it is what it is, so he's always bet on himself. And like you said, I think he deserves it. He's proved that he's a good player. As much shit as we love to give him about, the primetime games, the Monday night games where he just doesn't perform, it's just easier to give him shit about that and pile on.
Well, especially as Packer fans, that's an enjoyable thing to do. Yeah, naturally.
Exactly. But he's not that bad, really. He's not. So I think the Vikings would be dumb to not re-sign him.
The only thing, so this is such a huge question, because rebuilding means you lose Kirk, you lose Justin Jefferson, you still have Jordan Addison. Obviously, for the duration. And he looked very, very good last year, especially when he got called up after Justin Jefferson's injury. But you're going to have to – it's a good draft if you're going to rebuild, because it is so deep at both quarterback and wide receiver. The thing is, can you actually get one of those top quarterbacks or not? And I've seen people now start touting J.J. McCarthy, that – he's going to be a much higher draft pick than people have thought. Maybe he would be the type of guy that the Vikings would go after, just beyond the top 3, because I think there's too many teams ahead of them to draft that need a quarterback and that would get a quarterback. So they'd have to trade up for them. Now, I don't know. Justin Jefferson, like you said, wants Kirk to come back. So they have to figure out how to get Kirk back. I think this is the team that has benefited the most from the cap going up by $30,000 this year. The Vikings are the team that needed that to happen the most. And so it gives them the most flexibility of re-signing Justin Jefferson and then taking on a short but costly contract for Kirk Cousins. Now, they would have to figure out probably running back, through the draft. And it's not a very deep running back class. They aren't going to have free agent money to spend on that.
Yeah. I just looked up the draft order, and the Vikings pick 11th in the first round. So, they're not that far away from being able to make a move up. Not saying they're going to get to the top 3, but say they want to get the 3rd or 4th quarterback off the board, whether it is JJ McCarthy or I don't even know.
Knicks or somebody.
Yeah. They could make that move, or one of those players could fall to them at 11, realistically. Yeah. So, they're not out of position, but it is a stretch, I think, if they want to go after one of those top. I think getting to 1 or 2 to get one of the top 2 quarterbacks is out of the question. They probably have to trade JJ in that deal to make that happen, and I just don't think they'll do that. So Yeah, I think their best bet is to get Kirk back on the squad. You have to remember when he signed his contract, 3 years ago or whatever it was one of the higher contracts as far as like a per year basis at
Sure.
that time. So, not that he reset the market, but
All
he
quarterbacks kind of reset the market every time that they do this
yeah,
thing. It's
that's
all,
true.
Patrick Mahomes' deal looks like a steal now compared to when he signed it. And
True.
it's a blockbuster situation.
Yeah.
So I think that they should run it back. And that pains me to say as a
Hmm.
Packer fan, but I think that they should run it back. And I think that they can make it work.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if any reports come out here as the draft is approaching on
Mhm.
Kirk's recovery, or if we start to see videos of him actually like starting to do workouts or stuff like that. The little hype videos to be like, no, he's we're gonna re-sign him. We don't have to worry about the draft or anything. But free agency starts before the draft, so
Mhm. They have to get it
it's
figured out. They have to have a
yeah,
plan in place before the draft
yeah,
actually happens.
yeah.
And with Kirk, at least he is like Tom Brady in the fact that he's a purely pocket guy. Like
Hmm.
Kirk Cousins, nobody's valuing him for his escapability. So like he doesn't,
What?
that injury, it could be a lot worse for a different type of player than it is for
Yeah.
him. So I think that'll be fine. I would say right now for Dynasty, because I've seen trades where he's valued next to nothing. I think that you should be floating out in Dynasty if you're a contender and you want a quarterback.
Mhm.
Go chuck a second round at the person who has
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins because I think it would be worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. That'll be a steal come the regular season. So I like that a lot, Jake. Okay. Moving on here. Back to the Falcons discussion. So with Arthur Smith gone, do we raise our hands to the heavens and say, this is it? Give us fantasy gold finally with all these young players. You got Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, whoever they have at quarterback. Like they have all the offensive pieces there. Is it going to be unleashed? Yes or no? One word.
Yes.
Yes. I love it.
Yeah. Because, and this is what I can't hold me to one word on this
I know.
the entire
I
time. But I will say, you can't hold me to one word on shit. I'm going to use a billion words on everything. But I will say for this particular team, it almost doesn't matter who the quarterback is in terms of upgrading these guys' fantasy value. Because as long as it's not bottom tier quarterbacking, with Arthur Smith gone, you cannot overstate how bad he was for fantasy purposes. I did a little bit of digging here. I like to make sure that my biases are at least correct in terms of statistics. And Atlanta literally ranked in the bottom half of the league in both total yards and total points in every single one of his 3 years. I don't know why I said every single one that fervently, but I just want to make sure. Like there wasn't a year that he was like, oh, he was fine. He was never fine. None of those players were ever fine. And so the ceiling is automatically bigger for every player. I guess my question to you is there a particular player that we should be expecting to have the biggest ascension from where they were to where they would go? Does one stand out?
For me personally, it's Drake London. I think he can have the biggest jump. As much as I want to say Kyle Pitts, I just
No.
I've been burned too many times. He's still like 17 years old, and he's young in the league, but I just until I see it, I just can't get on board with him. I mean, Bijan had a very good year last year, all things considered. Well, I think he's going to take
Up and down, but good.
jump forward this year for sure. I think Drake London's the one that I really want to go after this offseason to try to get on my squad because I do think he is the real deal, and I think he's going to take the biggest jump out of all these fantasy assets.
I agree. And per the calculators and the rankings and all that stuff out there, Drake London is being valued at the same sort of tier as Terry McLaurin. And there's no chance that I would rather take Terry McLaurin.
Yeah.
I want Drake London
every
a
day,
million times over.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's interesting. I
Mhm.
I'll admit I've kind of taken a little bit of a break here with the trading and stuff, just
It's
give
fair.
give the old mind a reset. But now that you've said that, I might need to start going and throwing out some trades for him if I could get Terry McLaurin value for him. That would be
Scary
amazing.
Terry, 2 years older, even 3 years
Yeah.
older? I don't know. He's older, and again, I
At
don't
least a
love
couple
his
years. So
situation. Yeah. Yep. I'd rather have Drake. So we are on board. All right. We don't have to talk about Arthur Smith anymore, right? We can be done with Arthur Smith for now.
for now. All right.
Good.
Okay. So let's talk. Whoa, you added to the list here. Holy man.
I added one.
Jake.
I had to do it.
All right. So, which of these fantasy studs will hit their age cliff here? So I'll just say yes or no, and then we can talk more in depth. We got Kelsey.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm yes as well. Derrick Henry.
Yes.
Yes. Raheem Mostert.
No.
No. Austin Eckler.
I'm push. It's a push.
I'm there with you too. I don't think he's going to hit the cliff, but I just think he's going to get utilized differently, which will affect his fantasy
Yes.
value. All right.
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
All right. Aaron Jones.
It's so hard.
I'm a no.
Being a Packers fan, I'm
a
gonna say
no.
yes. I think
I'm a no.
yes.
All right.
We'll have to talk about him.
Yeah. Keenan Allen.
No, actually.
No. Yeah, I'm a no as well. Devontae Adams.
No.
I'm a no as well. Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
I'm going to say yes with
Push.
an asterisk. with an asterisk. With an asterisk.
Okay.
There.
Well, we definitely got it. Let's start with Cooper Kupp
Yeah.
then.
Well, no,
So
all
what
right,
is?
there's 2 more on the list here. Jake.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Jesus.
Okay.
God. All right. Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Yes. Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
I'm going to say no.
Okay. Well, I added a separate question for him because
I
I
know.
expected us to have a
Right.
difference of opinion. So let's put a
Okay,
pin
well-
in him.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So going back to the list, our first
Disagreement.
disagreement was what? Austin Eckler.
Yeah. Well,
All
I
right.
think we might be speaking the same language, but I just want to, because you mentioned it's all going to be about his usage, which I agree with. The workhorse days are done for Austin Eckler.
Yes,
I
I agree. I agree as
Well-
well.
Where he came into the league and excelled at anyways was being a pass catcher. So just get him back to where he was in his first few years in the league. And I think he still very much has that. Last year, he was playing through injury for what it's worth.
Mhm.
So, now tacking on an extra workload or the workload he's gotten the last couple of years, which has been insane. Like if you looked at just his first 3 years and then flash forward
Oh,
to all of a sudden every goal line carry is his, like most of the
Mhm.
between the 20s, you're like, what the fuck happened here? This is Danny Woodhead all of a sudden became Derrick Henry. Like, when the hell was that allowed to happen? So I do think usage-wise, he should take a step back. Do you think his fantasy points per game is going to be massively shifted because of that?
I don't know massively, but I think he's probably going to be overdrafted, or he's going to. I don't think I'll be drafting him where his ADP will be. Let's put it that way. I think he's got that name recognition. I think you've got the hype with Harbaugh coming in, who likes to run the ball. I think they're going to add someone, whether it's via the draft or free agency. They're going to bring in a name. It's not going to tank his usage, but I think, like you said, he's not going to be the bell cow anymore. I think it's going to look a little bit more like his first few years in the league, more of a satellite receiving back. And those years of 15 touchdowns are just, I just don't see that happening anymore.
The touchdowns are gone. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think it's so much an age related cliff. It's going to be a usage and volume situation here in my book.
And we don't know which team he's actually going to be with.
True.
The guy actually is a free agent, so I don't know that the Chargers do bring him back.
And that's very true.
If I'm trying to figure out, because there's so many running backs in free agency now, It's Derrick Henry. It's Josh Jacobs. It's Saquon Barkley, DeAndre Swift. I'm sure a bunch more that I'm leaving off. I think any one of them would suit very well in a Jim Harbaugh backfield. And I don't know that I would love to see Austin Eckler go to the Chiefs. I don't think that it's realistic, but I would love to see it. If he could resume the Jerick McKinnon role, but like full time, because Jerick McKinnon only plays like 3 games a year. I think that's in his contract. But Austin Eckler could do that extremely well.
Ooh, that would make so many people's pants tent up. Wouldn't even be funny.
Bad news for Isaiah Pacheco, but great news for Austin Eckler.
Yeah. All right. Next player we disagreed on was Aaron Jones.
Here's, I guess, my caveat for it. If we're going to do sort of an asterisk thing, it's not that he's hit the age cliff in terms of his efficiency, but in terms of his usage. So I guess it is an Austin Eckler type of thing. We saw last year again. He didn't even get maximum usage. He still, unfortunately, has to deal with the injuries. I think that's just his way of being right now. So do you give him 15 touches a game? I don't know that I would. Do you think that they do this year, give him 15 touches a game?
I do. I mean, when he was healthy and playing, he looked terrific.
I
know. I think the AJ Dillon experiment is over. I don't think he's going to be back with the squad. And while they're going to have to bring in someone in the draft, I can't imagine them investing heavily in this draft to get a running back or spending a ton of money in free agency, bringing in a name. I just, that's just not the Packers way. So by default, I think he's going to end up getting the bulk of the carries.
Maybe they really like Emmanuel Wilson or Patrick Taylor again to bring him back.
Those
fill
are
the AJ Dillon role.
Yeah, which those guys are fine, but I mean, AJ Dillon was a guy that you could count on if you needed to take 15 touches a game. Those other guys on the roster, I just don't see it. Like they're good. Take a series here, series there type guys. I just don't know that they're 15 touches a game. So that's why I think we're in disagreement here.
That makes sense. All right. The one that I'm most curious about, because you were so mystic about it, is Cooper Kupp. We have a little bit of it. I think he's 1000% hit his age cliff. You seemed a little less sure.
I don't think so. I think we saw both Puka and Cooper have very good games in this offense last year. If anything, having Puka there opens things up for Cooper Kupp. So while I think he probably takes a step back from what we've traditionally seen from his fantasy production, I don't think it's an age cliff related drop.
So we might be talking semantics here. We might be talking semantics. I guess whether you attribute it to his age or his injury history or the new guy in town, I definitely to get him to 1,200 yards seems unfathomable to me at this stage. And I will tell you, so I don't want to be that guy, but I did look this up. So
but you're going to be that guy.
I'm going to fucking be that guy. From week 7 on, he only had 2 games with more than 55 yards.
All right. That is rough. That's rough.
Now, is it he was coming off of the injury. I left that out. The first 4 weeks, like he didn't even play. In his first 2 games back, he looked like prime Cooper Kupp. He had 100-yard games. And it was fucking Puka Nacua because Cooper Kupp was back and doing his thing those first couple of games. But I just do wonder, the guy is going to be 31 or is 31, turning 32. And it doesn't feel like his game is going to translate the same way that Keenan Allen's will, which we both agree Keenan Allen is still A-okay.
Right.
That. So I got my qualms.
No, I see it. I see it. I just don't agree. I mean, it's definitely within the realm of possibility, but I see where you're coming from.
His ADP is super low right now in terms of, again, my only reference is best ball ADP, but it is super low.
It's all we've got.
Get him at the back end of the 4th round, almost early 5th round at this point. So if you believe in Cooper Kupp, there will be space for you to take advantage of that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I think that was the last one on the list there.
Yeah, until we'll put a
players.
pin in the other guy.
Yeah. Okay. So let's move to rookies from last year. We had a bunch of rookies that we'll say underperformed for one reason or another, whether it was situation, opportunity, injury, whatever. So we'll kind of do what we did last one. We'll say yes or no if they're going to make a leap, if we're going to see drastic improvement over last year. Okay.
Great.
So we've got Bryce Young.
Yes, he'll make a leap.
I agree. JSN.
Absolutely, 1,000%.
I don't know. I might be a push if I can hedge myself. Quentin Johnston.
Nope.
I'm going to say no, as much as it pains me to say that. Michael Mayer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to say yes. Marvin Mims.
He's the pushiest of all pushes.
I want to say
it all
yes.
hedges on the coach.
That's what I was going to say. I want to say yes, but I don't know if I trust Sean Payton. And then Michael Wilson.
I'll say yes.
Yeah, I'll say yes as well. So we had a little bit of disagreement on JSN.
Yeah.
I just with Lockett there, and I know he's another year older, but I refuse to discount Tyler Lockett because he keeps doing the same thing every single year.
Sure.
It's kind of like the Derrick Henry argument. I'm not going to bet against him until he just doesn't do it anymore. So while Lockett's there, you've got DK Metcalf. Jesus, my brain. I might have a concussion. I don't know.
You actually might.
With those two still there, is Geno Smith still going to be there? Probably. Do we see him return to what he did a couple seasons ago? Probably not. So that's why I'm a little hesitant. I love the talent. Don't get me wrong. I think I love his talent. Just with the two wide receivers in front of him and the questions at quarterback, I just don't know how big a step he could take forward. I think it just might be another year or two yet, unfortunately.
My feeling on him is we should have expected last year to happen because of Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. Now, Tyler Lockett, I have a lot of respect for. I love Tyler Lockett. I think he is perpetually valued. I think we finally hit the spot with him where it just doesn't make sense to keep putting this amazing rookie into the slot and forcing him the ball from like 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage, which is what they felt. It felt like they were doing with JSN last year. And it's like Tyler Lockett, yes, still was good. Did he look as good as he has in previous years? I don't think so, personally. And now there is going to be a massive coaching change in Seattle. So Pete Carroll is gone. They brought in a defensive-minded guy, Mike McDonald, from the Ravens, but he hasn't really solidified the offensive coordinator yet, which I think is going to be the biggest part of this. But I just can't imagine a new offensive coordinator comes in, goes, yeah, remember that mid-round first round rookie pick that we got? That's supposed to be like a dynamo. Let's fucking keep that guy on the sidelines even more. So I think that it's absolutely going to look a lot better than last year. Maybe it's not 1,200 yards for JSN, but I think by default, it's going to be a lot better than last year. So I'm buying into him.
Okay. I think that's fair. You make a good argument. We'll just see what happens. As we will, because that's what we always do. All right. Quickly, I just want to say Quentin Johnston. I'm hopeful he can rebound. I'm just not super confident on it. I was not super high on him last year, but I did like the landing spot. So we'll see. I hope maybe Harbaugh can unlock him. Maybe after a rookie season, he's going to get his head on straight. Who knows what the issue was? I'm hopeful that he's not a bust. But I'm not super confident on it. That's why I was like, yeah. But I agree with you. I'm not expecting a ton, but like I said, I'm hopeful on it. And I think that was it for those underperformers. All right. Moving on. This little homer one from you, did you hear, Jake? But I love
Had
it.
to.
So Does Green Bay add to their receiving room?
And look, it's a homer one, but it's a big time question that a lot of people have already been, because it's such a deep wide receiver class.
Mm-hmm.
So they go, well, Green Bay is young. Green Bay has always needed receivers. And we flash back to the Aaron Rodgers days, and they never gave him enough receivers. They're going to make up for it in this draft. And you and I are smart enough to know that even if we didn't have the amazing pool of talent that showed out last year, there's no way that they're going to go for like an early round pick in wide receivers.
No.
And like you said, the Packers' way is not to sign these massive dollar free agent deals with wide receivers or any position for that matter. So they're not going to do that. So do they add to the receiving room? Maybe, but I think it's going to be like a day 3 pick or 2.
Probably.
In the rookie draft.
Yeah.
Right? And
I agree. Or it'll be some undrafted free agent, which they love to grab those guys. And but yeah, I agree. The earliest I could see them taking a wide receiver is maybe like the 4th round, maybe.
Yep.
But that'd
be fine.
Yeah. But I mean, I think they're probably happy with what they saw this last year. I know I am from a fan perspective. I'm happy with what we saw last year. Christian Watson, if he can fix his hamstrings, I think will be solid. He's going to be that deep threat. Dobbs took a step forward, which I loved. Jaden Reed looked amazing. He really, came on out of, I shouldn't say out of nowhere, but I mean, he definitely impressed. Dontavian Wicks, young guy that showed out at times. Bo Melton that showed out. I mean, these aren't like big flashy names and maybe not the most super fantasy relevant guys.
Right.
But I think the Packers as a team are probably going to be confident. Okay, we've got this young core of wide receivers. We saw what they did last year, how they kind of started to gel with Jordan Love as the season went on. In his first year as a starting quarterback, let's ride this out at least another year and see what happens.
Let it develop. I think the worst thing in the world is to bring in some splashy veteran, or even not a splashy veteran, but just let's bring in some veteran to like shore up this thing and completely disrupt the flow of that room. Like there's a bunch of young guys just learning together and nobody being a diva, and you bring in this outside thing. I don't typically talk about like the locker room vibes of stuff, but like this is such an important one where you don't want to fuck that up. And like you said, even the furthest guys down the roster, like Malik Heath, Melton, looked solid for this team. The only expendable guy, in my opinion, is Samori Toure. I'm fine if he goes. Everybody else, I want to keep,
Yeah.
And for fantasy, the point that you brought up is super relevant, because if somebody out there expects them to bring in another receiver, then everybody's value is down and suppressed, and you should go trade for them. But we also have to acknowledge we don't know who the standout still will be within the current group.
Right.
So maybe it's Jaden Reed, but like you said, if Christian Watson does manage to get healthy, and I've said it a million times, but they're bringing in specialists to like make sure that he gets healthy. So they're trying at least. I think Christian Watson is my trade candidate in Dynasty right now because he was so disappointing last year and he's injury prone and all that stuff. So go float out a second round pick for Christian Watson. I think you can get him.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. One last one here. And this is where we disagreed talking about earlier. And this is Aaron Rodgers. Does he still have it, in quotes? You say no. Why do you say no, Jake?
Maybe we just have to define what it is. I think does he still have it? Meaning, like, does he still have the propensity to just piss the fuck off of everybody that he ever talks to or hears him speak out in the world? Yeah, he has that. He has
Jake, if you listen to anything of 90s music and Faith No More, what is it? It's it.
What is it? Okay, yes.
Come on.
All right.
So we have the definition of it. Okay. It's it.
I apologize. It is it. Now, if we're looking at this realistically, It comes down to me a very simple thing, which is, I guess there's two sides to the coin. So I'll try to play it down the middle so I can always come out ahead. I think if you look at Aaron Rodgers as the guy who's 2 seasons removed from back-to-back MVPs, you go, yeah, he's still, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, yes, he still has it. He just didn't get a play last year. That's almost all it is. But I look at it as he's a 40-year-old guy coming off of a massive Achilles injury. And I don't care how much Dolphin fucking he been listening to in the offseason. That is not going to make that a non-issue because, unlike Kirk Cousins, his whole thing, not his whole thing, a lot of his thing is his escapability, his ability to extend plays and run around and do like the Russell Wilson-y type of thing. So are you zapped of that a little bit after such an injury at 40 years old? Not being Tom Brady, who only eats, kale? Probably. That's what I think.
Can I see that? Sure. But I think Aaron has proved over the course of his career that he's not just another quarterback. Like he is one of those special players. As much as we love to hate on him because he is kind of a douchebag, he is a special player, and he has been his entire career. So do I think he can come back from this? Absolutely. The Jets have, they've got a solid running game where they can rely on Breece Hall. They've got Garrett Wilson there, who they spent very high draft capital on. They've got a solid defense, or a very good defense. I shouldn't even say solid, a very good defense. So I don't think they're going to require him to, like what the Packers did, to have to like make plays constantly and feel like he has to win the game. Like he just has to go out there and maybe make a couple plays a game, let the ground game do its thing, and just hit the receivers as they get open. So I think he can still do it. I do. Is it going to be the MVP type seasons? No, but I think he could be a fringe top 12 quarterback pretty easily.
Ooh. So you're saying he needs to go out there and not be Zach Wilson, and simply by the attribute of not being Zach Wilson, he can be a fringe quarterback one, at least for fantasy purposes.
Absolutely.
I think they need to figure out the offensive line situation for him if that's going to come to fruition. And obviously they have plenty of time and the resources aren't a lot. The $30,000 probably helps them a lot too, in terms of the cap raise. But if the offensive line still looks like trash, Aaron Rodgers can only do so much, especially for a guy whose whole thing has been, I need to make sure that I'm making the exact right decision here.
Right.
So that sometimes leads to holding on to the ball for too long and then behind a massive line, that could be troublesome. But that's might be the best running game he's ever played with, arguably. I love me some Breece Hall. So I will meet you there. I will meet you halfway.
Fair
on the Breece Hall of
enough.
it all. All right.
Fair enough. But yeah, so I guess we're still split on that one. But we shall see, as they say.
That's right. People have said that.
People have, yes. So that is the end of our show sheet, Jake. Any final thoughts here before we sign off for this week?
It's NFL Combine week starting officially later on here this week. Just don't get too caught up in it. Be excited about it. It's very exciting to still watch this because it's another glimpse of football. We've been like 3 weeks without, and I think people are getting the itchy scratchies. But just don't invest too much into this phase of it. If your favorite rookie doesn't do the drill that everybody thinks they should do, that they're abstaining from, don't freak out about it. And also don't freak out about the 40 times. Enjoy it, but don't freak out.
Yeah, because I was going to say, just onto that, like Kyron Williams last year, like he had a terrible 40 time and he dropped way down on people's draft boards, and look what he did. He was just fine in the NFL. Not saying that always happens that way, but like you said, just don't put all your eggs into the combine basket here.
Bingo bango.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for this week, folks. Thanks again for tuning in. We truly appreciate it. Go give us a rate and review wherever you subscribe to your podcasts here. If you haven't so far, check us out on YouTube. We have videos there. We do clips. You can catch us live streaming all the time, whenever we go live. So just, subscribe there as well. Do all those things. Help support us, because we are here to support you and your fantasy dreams. And with that, we'll talk to you next week. Keep drinking and talking fantasy football.
Cheers, FFers.